Our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sybil, is joining us for more on this story. Good afternoon to you, Siddhant. What are we expecting from today's conference? This is a significant initiative by India to tackle this global crisis.
Well, a significant initiative by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who proposed the proposal on Friday through a tweet, and now it's a reality within 48 hours. The leaders of SAARC countries, barring of course Pakistan will be represented by a junior minister. The health advisor to the Prime Minister will be taking part in this conference. This is taking place at 5 PM Indian Standard Time, and all the leaders will be joined. But even as the SAARC conference takes place, the Indian Prime Minister has mooted another global conference. This is on G20. We know that the Australian Prime Minister, a short while ago, he was doing a press conference in which he confirmed that this was a proposal given by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it shows the leadership of India and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi when it comes to tackling this crisis. The Australians said that they affirm and support this initiative, and now all eyes are on Riyadh, because remember, Saudi Arabia is the chairperson of the G20 this year. The summit takes place in November in Riyadh. But will this G20 video conference on coronavirus take place? This will, if it happens, it will be a major development and a global coordinated move to fight this issue. We also know that the G7 is also doing a video conference. The French president in a tweet confirmed that this is going to happen. This is going to happen on Monday. But the G7, the video conference takes place one day after the India proposed SAARC conference takes place. This shows that how India has been taking charge. We know that it's just not about the video conference. India has taken a lead since January. India was the first country to take the measures when it comes to South Asian region to deal with this crisis. We also know that India has been trying to evacuate a lot of citizens of the South Asian countries, whether it's from Nepal, Bhutan, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka and Maldives. India has evacuated more than 20 of Bangladeshi nationals from Wuhan, the epicenter of the crisis, and also citizens of Maldives. 9 citizens were evacuated, and yesterday we saw the Indian envoy to Maldives, Sanjay Sudhir, giving a consignment of medicines, and also the medical team reached there in Maldives, and we know that a technical support has been given, an offer has been given by India to Afghanistan as well. So these are the measures taken by the Indian government at a time when this crisis has killed so many people. And we also know that in a short while ago at 12 noon, the Indian health minister in its update said that there are more than 100 people infected by the coronavirus here in India. That of course remains the sad news, but largely when it comes to global coordinations proposals, India has taken a lead.
Siddhant, thank you for that report. That's our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sybil, bringing us the latest on the conference due to take place at 5 PM today. Now, we are also joined by Harsh V. Pant, a distinguished gentleman and head of ORF's Strategic Studies Program. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us. Now, India is showing strong regional leadership in arranging this conference. What do we expect from this meeting this afternoon?
I think, this is a very welcome initiative by the Prime Minister, because clearly, given the population density here in South Asia, it's imperative that all the countries in the region have a coordinated response to this crisis. There are open borders all across. The borders are very difficult to man. There is a lot of transmission happening even as we speak. So clearly, the fluidity of the South Asian arrangement makes it almost impossible for any one country to tackle it. And I think Mr. Modi has done the right thing by looking at it from a regional perspective and taking a call that all regional actors should bring their resources together to fight this virus. And clearly his appeal has worked. All the states in the region have been impressed. If you look at some of the responses to Mr. Modi's tweet yesterday, they've been pretty proactive in the sense accepting that much more needs to be done. And clearly one hopes that a more coordinated regional response would be the order of the day, unlike what we have seen, in fact, in the developed parts of the world, where the responses have been very knee-jerk, where the responses have been very inward-oriented. India has been one country which has been, at a time when countries are turning off their borders, India has been one country which has looked at this much more proactively and much more expansively than just the territorial borders of its own nation.
What can we make of Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan not joining this conference himself? Does this seem to be petty politics in the face of this global pandemic?
It does sound petty. I think it would have been wonderful had he joined, because clearly the virus is not going to differentiate between Indians and Pakistanis or Bangladeshis or Nepalese. I think the question here is what the region as a whole can do. But I think the fact that his advisor is joining is one can take some hope that perhaps Pakistan will join in if the states of the region decide to tackle this at a coordinated level, which they should, and which I think the Prime Minister has been making this appeal from the very beginning, that this cannot be fought. Yes, we want to have strong controls over our borders. Yes, we want to make sure that those who are infected are quarantined. But at the end of the day, it's a viral epidemic which needs to be contained much more at the regional and even at the global level.
Of course, as you've mentioned, it is wise to have a coordinated response in the region. India has already done a lot in terms of assisting other nations in evacuating their citizens. This will go a long way to protecting the huge population of India. Your comments? I'm not sure if you
and if you look at the response that that not only
continue.
I did. There was a certain lag there, but I did hear you. Yes, I think if you look at the responses that India has taken, the kind of policies that India has adopted from the very beginning, it's quite clear that India was aware of the consequences if this is not managed properly. And though some of the comments that have come from certain quarters, have been that look how effective China has been, and perhaps India may not be that effective. I think they completely underscore the difference between what some sections of the world community might be thinking about Indian response. And here, I think Indian Prime Minister, Indian government has done a very, very effective job compared to some of the countries that we consider developed. So here, I clearly the idea that India has gone out, approached other countries, evacuated Indian nationals from other countries, also helped other countries in whatever limited capacity India can, and in its own neighborhood in particular. That shows that the recognition of the challenge in India has been particularly astute compared to what we have seen in some other countries.
Thank you very much for joining us. That is Mr. Harsh Pant coming to us. He is the head of OFF's Strategic Studies Program for the latest on the conference due to happen at 5 p.m. today.